Come on. Drum roll. She needs no introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, Senator Kamala Harris.
Good morning. Thank you, Mark, for that introduction and your long-standing leadership. Mark and I in the back were talking about the importance of leadership in our country, and that those who have served at a local level on the ground every day, being responsive and required to be responsive to the folks that live with us and live by us and depend on us, that it really creates a certain character. And you are a leader who has led at every level in our nation. And as an American leader, I thank you, you being the American leader, for all you have done. If we can hear from Mark Morial. So good morning, and thank you to the National Urban League for having me here today. Of course, for more than 100 years, this organization has fought for our community to secure economic self-reliance, parity, power, and civil rights. This organization has marched on Washington, fought for the integration of schools and the armed forces. This organization has created new paths to prepare young people for college and has nurtured and encouraged Black leaders to identify and solve our most intractable challenges. The National Urban League has always seen what can be, unburdened by what has been. And it is because of the great leaders of this organization, from George Edmund Haynes to Vernon Jordan, to the leadership today in Mark Morial, that I stand before you as only the second Black woman elected to the United States Senate and as a candidate for President of the United States. And I grew up in the fight for civil rights and equality. As many of you may know, I was born in Oakland, California, in a place where people also spoke and fought for justice. My parents met when they were graduate students at the University of California, Berkeley, where they were active in the civil rights movement. In fact, my sister Maya and I, we joked that we grew up surrounded by a bunch of adults who spent full time marching and shouting about this thing called justice. And of course, among the many heroes of that important movement were the lawyers: Thurgood Marshall, Charles Hamilton Houston, Constance Baker Motley. Those individuals who understood the skill of the profession of law to translate the passion from the streets to the courtrooms of our country, and to do the important work that we know must always be done of reminding folks of that great promise we articulated in 1776, that we are all equal and should be treated that way. And the fight for equality, of course, is more important than it has been in a long time. It is more important today than it has been in a long time. Because right now, we have a supposed leader in the White House who doesn't want to stand for progress, but in fact stands in the way of progress. And he wants to take us back. Donald Trump says he wants to make America great again. Well, what does again mean? Back before the Civil Rights Act? Back before the Voting Rights Act? Back before Roe v. Wade? Back before the Fair Housing Act? Because we're not going back. We are not going back. And when he looks at women of color who are serving their country in the United States Congress, women who chose to become public servants, women who have been duly elected by their constituents, women who have sworn an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States from all enemies, foreign and domestic, and he tells them to go back to where they came from, what do we say? We're not going back. We're not going back. And in fact, I'll tell y'all where we're going. We're going to the White House. That's where we're going. And when we get to the White House Urban League, we will turn the page, and we will together write the next chapter in the history of our country. But we can't, of course, write the next chapter without remembering the last one. So let's talk about where we're going in that context. We're going from when the doors to many of our country's prestigious colleges and professions were being closed to our community and to the new investments that educate the next generation of Black leaders. We're going from redlining to real opportunity for home ownership. We're going from being excluded from the first industrial revolution to propelling the next one. And to that end, a few weeks ago, I laid out a plan to reduce the racial wealth gap in our country after centuries of discrimination and to expand home ownership to up to 4 million Black families. Thank you. And today, here at the National Urban League Conference, I'm unveiling for the first time 2 more initiatives to close the wealth gap and build opportunity for everyone in America. As a proud graduate of Howard University, you know, I know that HBCUs graduate nearly 1 in 4 students with science and engineering degrees. Tuskegee graduated Lonnie Johnson, who invented the Super Soaker and water gun and worked on the stealth bomber and program and later joined NASA. Florida A&M graduated LaSalle Lafall, the first Black president of the American Cancer Society, who later taught, of course, at Howard. West Virginia State University graduated Katherine Johnson, who literally put the first men into space. HBCUs have always been part of training our future. And now, in the midst of a technical and technological and digital revolution, we must ensure that everyone participates in the wealth that it creates. So I'm pleased to announce today that as president, I will make a $60 billion investment in STEM education at HBCUs and other minority-serving institutions. And part of what we know is that those institutions, those HBCUs, have broad shoulders upon whom many have stood. But we also know that many of the labs are outdated, and these campuses need to be upgraded and continue to attract world-class researchers. And why? Because it will enhance the student experience and allow students to compete in a global world. So that is why I am prepared to make that investment, knowing of the historical relevance and role of HBCUs, the challenges they currently face, and the needs that we can actually meet in tomorrow. And I'll also invest another $2.5 billion to support HBCU teacher programs. Why? Well, here's the thing. If a Black child has a Black teacher before the end of 3rd grade, that child is 13% more likely to go to college. If that child has had 2 Black teachers before the end of 3rd grade, they are 32% more likely to go to college. So let's be bold. Let's move forward. And I'm pleased to also announce today that as president, I will invest in Black entrepreneurs and business owners by creating and increasing access to capital and credit. I'll put $12 billion into federal grants for Black entrepreneurs and expand access to capital through federal contracting programs. So I'll give you an example of what that means. So say someone, for example, wants to open and start a hardware store, right? He could apply for a $50,000 grant from the Minority Business Development Agency to get that business off the ground. His business then will, of course, hire workers from the community and contribute to the community financially and as a civic leader. And all of society, as a result, will benefit. And Urban League, let's be clear. By taking these challenges on, we don't just move Black America forward. All of America moves forward. All of America will benefit. So let's be bold and build the America we believe in. The America we believe in, which is where you only have to work one job to have a roof over your head and put food on the table. An America where teachers are paid their value and children are safe in their classrooms. Where health care is a right and not a privilege for just those few who can afford it. And the America we believe in, where the right to vote is sacred and privileged and protected, and where opportunity is not determined by your race or your zip code. And where, in our America, where we have a president that lifts people up, not beat them down. That's the America we stand for, and that's the America we will fight for. And I thank you, Urban League, for all of your leadership, and I look forward to fighting with you for that America, because we all know part of the strength of this organization and all of the leaders in this room is we have always been motivated by knowing what can be and believing and being deep of faith in knowing what can be, unburdened by what has been. And this fight is a fight that is born out of optimism. This is a fight that is born out of not only knowing that we must fight for the soul of our country, but this is a fight born also out of love of country. And this is a fight we will win. Thank you.